that you're on the anterior side. See this diagonal line? Okay. All right. You don't really have much of it here, but we have like a definite diagonal line going down here, right? Right, this diagonal line. Woo. Right? So the big blood vessel that's coming out of the heart, this big red one, was the what? Aorta. Right? The first one, right? Do you see this blue one in the bottom? This one? You have to know the order. So this first one is the pulmonary trunk, right? And see how it's blue because it's carrying what? Deoxygenated blood, right? Pulmonary trunk. And then this is the aorta. And then this must be this one is the superior vena cava. Okay, so that's the order. So if I put a tape on this structure, you will tell me what? This is the superior vena cava. This was the pulmonary trunk. And this was then the aorta. Very good. Okay. So make sure you guys have your sheets with you because I'm going to go over terms as we go. Okay. So if I open up, right, I said this was the anterior side, right? So if I open this up, right, what chamber do I have up here? Right. This is the right atrium, right? Because we already kind of found out that this is the front. We opened that up, so this must be the right? Then this must be the left atrium. This then is the right ventricle, and then the left ventricle, right? So if I have a tape, you guys will tell me which chamber, right? Right? So make sure you guys clearly know that. Okay, which chamber is which. Another way to differentiate what side is which, right, by just looking at the inside, is if you look at the muscles of the ventricle, right? See how, if you look carefully, see how this side is really thick, right? Compared to this side, right? See how this one is much thicker than the one on this side? Why would the muscles of the left ventricle be bigger than the one of the right ventricle? Exactly, all the way to your toes, right? Right? I have to go all the way down there. So, but then the left ventricle, the right ventricle, pumps blood to where? To the lungs, and it's like this distance, right? Doesn't need that strong of a contraction versus the contraction that's needed to push blood all the way down to the tips of your toes, right? So you need that thick of a structure in the left ventricle. That's how you can see which side is which. So you kind of, if you open up a heart and you're like, oh, what side is this, right? And you look for the muscles of the ventricles, right? So the thicker one must be then the left, right? The left. The one right before going to the rest of the body, right? Very good. All right. Our valve, right? Our first valve. This valve was the what? Tricuspid, right? And then this valve is then the bicuspid. Okay. See this valve? See this one? It's like a little valve thing right here, right? This one must be which one? Aortic, because it's going to the aorta. See that? Aortic valve going to the aorta. Right? And then we have the pulmonary, and it's on this side. So if I have, let's say, I could be tricky. Well, not too tricky, but then like if I have this on one station of the practical and I have this on another station of the practical, right? If I point to this, you guys see that? You see that? You see it back here? Make sure you guys all see it. See this valve right here? Mm-hmm. Back here? This one must be which valve right here? Pulmonary, because we have what coming out of it? Trunk. Pulmonary trunk coming out of it, right? Pulmonary valve going to the pulmonary trunk. So if I have this taped, you guys will tell me pulmonary valve, right? So make sure you guys, and then pulmonary valve is also known as what? Semilunar. Yeah, remember that? Semilunar. Okay. If I give you that question, make sure you know which ones are semilunar, which ones are atrioventricular. Okay. Atrioventriculars are the ones dividing the atrium and the ventricles, right? Remember? Talked about that. Okay, good. All right. These are the new terms. Okay. If you look inside of the heart, do you guys see this cord-like structures? See that? See these weird, ugly things, right? Like these cord-like structures, right? These structures are called the chordae tendineae. Okay. They're the chordae tendineae. The chordae tendineae connects. Tendineae connects the atrioventricular valves to the ventricle, to the walls of the ventricle. The chordae tendineae, right, this cord-like structures, right, connects the atrioventricular valves to the walls of the ventricle.
That one more time.
Okay, so we have the chordae tendineae. So you can see that in the internal structures. Right? They connect, chordae tendineae holds on to or connects the atrioventricular valves. So they're on both sides, atrioventricular valves, to the walls of the ventricle. Okay. Well, okay. So make sure you guys get a good look at that. Okay. The next term on your list, you guys see where it says papillary muscles? Right? Papillary muscles. Right? Papillary literally means nipples, and these nipple-like structures, you guys see that? Right, see that? It looks like a nipple, right? See that? Right, and then these structures helps you hold on. The papillary muscles help you hold on to the chordae tendineae to the walls. So they are those structures actually connecting the chordae tendineae to the walls. Right? The chordae tendineae. So the chordae tendineae is connected to the papillary muscles, which is connected to this part of the walls, which is called the trabeculae carnae. Do you guys see where the trabeculae carnae? Right. It's these muscles right here. Right. Right. Do you see where it looks like, I don't know, like this network of muscles lining the walls of the ventricle? This structure, right? These structures are the trabeculae carnae. Trabeculae carnae. And I always think everything looks like carne asada. Trabeculae carnae sort of kind of looks like carne asada to me. But anyway, right. So this structure was called what? The chordae tendineae, which is connected to papillary muscles, which is connected to the trabeculae carnae, which is then like plastered to the walls of the ventricle, right? Why in the world would we have such structure? Why would we have the chordae tendineae? What's it for? What do you guys think it's for? Prevent backflow. What that means is, okay, so we have blood going through our heart, right? So the blood first enters through either superior or inferior vena cava and enters here, right? And then you have contraction, blood is pushed into the right ventricle. Right now from here, where does the blood have to go? To the lungs, well, through the pulmonary trunk first, right? But if we squeeze on to here, right? If we don't have this flap, this could go backwards, right? The flow could go back to the right atrium, right? But we don't want that to happen, right? But we want it to go through. So what this does is this holds on to the valve so it doesn't burst open the other way. See that? It doesn't burst open the other way, but it might, the pressure might cause it to like balloon up like this for a second, but it won't open. And that is prevented by this structure, which is very, very helpful, right? You don't, so the chordae tendineae prevents backflow. Make sure you get that. Okay? Chordae tendineae prevents backflow from the ventricles to the atrium. Okay? All right. And then where are you going to see pectinate muscles? You guys don't need to worry about the pectinate muscles, not for now, so you guys can scratch that out for now. You guys probably will get more of it during lecture, but I'm not going to go over it. Okay, not the pectinate muscles. All right. So, do you guys see this number where it says 58? This small number, right? If I ask you what's 58 on the practicals, you guys will tell me papillary muscles. Okay, so make sure you know the structures, the internal structures. All right. Another internal structure. We have, well, on the walls of the right atrium. So I'm going to show you guys first. Do you guys see there's like this dent, right? Flat dent, right? You guys all see that circular flat dent. This right here, structure is called the fossa ovalis. You see that? Fossa ovalis. Right? It's located inside the right atrium. Right? Fossa ovalis is only in the right atrium. Right? And what that used to be what's called the foramen ovale, and it became the fossa ovale. Okay. So it used to be a big hole there, but once you were developing, right, you're an embryo and you're developing, and once you took your first breath, that shut closed, right? And that became the fossa ovale, because you don't want holes in your heart, right? You want it all closed. So it became from a hole, because foramen is a what? It was a hole, right? Remember? Foramen, yeah, a whole bunch of foramens last quarter, right? Foramen is a hole. It shut closed into a fossa, to a flat stick, okay? Right? So that's this structure. That's just a developmental significant structure. Okay? So make sure you guys know where it's located. In which chamber is it located? Right atrium. Right atrium. Very good. Very good. All right. So that's all the internal muscles, internal structures. I mean, I want you guys to focus on. So we don't have a foramen ovale right now, right? Because it's only seen in the embryo. Okay? So we don't have a foramen ovale, so you probably won't see that on your cats. But we're probably not seeing the internal structures. If you guys want to, you guys could try slicing your cats, down the middle to see the internal structures. But you guys don't have to. I think I have a sheep part somewhere, and that's a lot bigger. So that you could cut open and you can see the internal structures. But a cat is so small, you can't. It's hard to see much. Okay. Good. On the chambers, do you guys see that? Do you guys see where it says left and right auricle? Right. Auricle is this ear-like structures up on top. So see this? See these structures right here? This pink stuff, right? These are your right and left auricles. Auricle means ear, right? Auricle means ear. So this ear-like looking structures are your left and right auricles. And they tell you where the atriums are. So right beneath it, right? So right beneath this is the atria. Atrium. Going through the atrium.
Say that one more time.
The auricles, right? Auricles tell you the location of the atria. So the right auricle will be corresponding to the right atrium, left auricle, left atrium. Okay? They tell you the positions of the atrium. Okay. Let's see what am I missing. All right. Write this one down. Okay. The first branch off of the aorta, before it exits the heart, the first branch off of the aorta before it exits the heart are your coronary arteries. So if you look at your aorta, remember the big blood vessels carrying blood away from the heart, right? Remember that? Right. You have vessels, the first branch that comes out of it, and they're actually located inside the heart. So before they exits the heart, right? So you can't see it out here, but yes, you can see it here. So these two branches coming off, right? And they are your coronary arteries. Coronary arteries. You guys see that on your list? Mm-hmm. Coronary arteries. Left and right coronary arteries. Coronary means what? Do you guys know what coronary means? Heart, right? So what the coronary arteries do is they provide blood directly to the heart itself, right? They provide blood supply to the heart itself. That's the function of the coronary arteries. So they're pretty important, right? Because hearts are muscles too. They need supplies to keep it going, right? That comes from the coronary arteries, okay? And they are located first branch before exiting the heart. Okay. So we can see them out here as well. See that? All these blood supply to the heart itself on the outside. These are all our coronary veins and arteries. Blue are veins, red are arteries. Okay? Good. All right. Okay, in the heart model, okay, the first branch outside the heart of the aorta, right? So we have aorta, the first branch before the before exiting the heart was the coronary arteries. But the first branch after it exits the heart, the first branch, it's called the brachiocephalic trunk. Brachiocephalic trunk. It's on your blood vessel, it's in the middle. Can you see that? Brachiocephalic trunk. Right below aorta. Can you see that on your list? Okay. Brachiocephalic trunk, that's the first branch off of the aorta. And then the last two, I'm going to go over it up in the board after dissections, so you guys don't have to worry about that yet. So make sure you just know that the first branch off outside the aorta is the brachiocephalic trunk. Okay, brachiocephalic trunk. All right. All right, what am I missing? Okay. Make sure you guys see this. See this white structure? See this white thing? Right. Make sure you guys see it. See this white thing right here? This white structure right here, it's called the ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum. Right. Ligamentum arteriosum used to be what's called a ductus arteriosum. Used to be ductus arteriosum. But then just like the foramen ovale, right, it shut closed. And then it became from a ductus arteriosum to what's called the ligamentum. Ligamentum arteriosum. So it's another developmental thing, right? And what it does now, the only thing it does after it's developed, it holds the aorta to the pulmonary trunk. So this is another significant embryological feature. So the ligamentum arteriosum, write this down, right, is the ligament holding the pulmonary trunk to the aorta. Okay. Pulmonary trunk to the aorta. All right. So we're almost done. And you guys all know about the pericardiums, right? The pericardiums. Pericardial cavity. It's a space between the parietal and the visceral peritoneum. Can you see that? Pericardial cavity is the space between the parietal pericardium and the visceral pericardium. Okay. Space between parietal and visceral pericardium.
What is it called?
That's the pericardial cavity. Pericardial cavity. Okay, space between these two things, right? Parietal and visceral pericardium. Okay. All right. And then, generally, if I hold this up, right? If I ask you to locate the base of the heart, where do you think the base of the heart is located? It's actually on the top, right? Generally, when people think base, right, they think it's the fundamental thing is on the bottom, right, holding it up. Actually, generally, flat structures are what base is, right? So in our case, the heart is like a strawberry, right? So it's the flat part's on the top, so the base is on the top, and then the pointy part is tips, right?
Apex.
These would be the apex, exactly, the apex. Apex versus the base. Okay. And I think we went through all the important terms. All right, where you guys see in the back section where you guys have the blood? One of the things we're gonna do today is, if you guys want to, I do have kits to help you tell what blood type you are, and I'm gonna go over that lecture after dissection as well. So you guys could, if you want, prick yourselves and then see your blood types. It should be fine. But then if you don't want to poke yourself, you don't have to. I'm not requiring you. I'm not even giving you extra credit, so don't do it if you don't want to. Right? Don't force yourself pain if you don't want to. But we do have that option. So we're gonna do that in a bit. Where it says deep dissection of the thorax, I'm just gonna go through some of these terms real quick before we get started on dissection. So one of the most important terms, if I had to pick, Okay, visceral parietal pleura, what's that regarding to? That's covering what organ? The lungs, right? Right. Visceral pleura covers the lungs, parietal pleura covers the thoracic cavity holding the lungs, right? Remember that? Remember we did that last week? Vagus nerve are one of the nerves that are to the side. So, well, we're going to talk about this in a bit, but we have your common carotids up here. And then we also have our vagus nerve. So when you guys are dissecting, right, you guys will actually sometimes see your nerves, right? And they kind of look like dental floss. These white stringy thing, but they're pretty, they're tough, but still easily breakable. Right? So they are located down here. You have your vagus. And then one of the functions of the vagus is they are responsible for your parasympathetic responses. Vagus nerve is responsible for parasympathetic responses, for controlling heart rate. So parasympathetic is generally when you're calm, right? So you're slowing your heart rate down using your vagus nerve. Right? So a lot of your parasympathetic is controlled by your vagus nerve. So it includes not only your heart rate, but it also controls your breathing rate. Right? Heart rate, breathing rate, and it also controls your digestion as well. Do you guys remember the thing with the parasympathetic and digestion? When you're parasympathetic, are you digesting or not digesting? You are digesting, right? Because you're calm. Right? But when you're nervous, you're not hungry anymore, right? You guys, you know what I mean? Right? So when you're calm, when you're parasympathetic, your digestion is working because your vagus nerve is functioning, right? Good. Phrenic nerve is the nerve innervating your diaphragm. Right? And diaphragm controls what? Your breathing. Okay. So phrenic nerves responsible for innervating the diaphragm. Right? And on one of my cats, you can actually see the phrenic nerve connecting down to the diaphragm, which is kind of cool. But the phrenic nerves comes from C3, 4, and 5. So that's like located up here, right? You know, remember your C3, like cervical is up here. 3, 4, and 5 is up here, right? So the reason why when you get in a car accident, right, and then like you break your neck, right, it's so dangerous because if you damage your phrenic nerves, right, because it starts from here, goes all the way down to your diaphragm, right? If you break here and destroy the phrenic nerve, right, you're destroying your ability to what? Breathe, right? So that's why it's so dangerous to break here. Well, if you break anywhere else, it's still dangerous, but then, like if they break your lower back, you might get paralyzed, but you won't suffocate. You guys see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right? So that's why the phrenic nerve is very important. It helps you control your breathing, and which stems from your neck. That's why you don't want to break your neck. You want to be careful. Phrenic nerve. Esophagus, we know where it is, so be able to identify that. Sympathetic trunk, azygous vein, hemiazygous vein. I'll show you as we go. So I'll probably go around per table showing you where the azygous vein and hemiazygous vein is. And I'll probably talk to you that in detail. And dorsal aorta is just the aorta, right? Descending down, right, on the back side.
Can you show me the one that you just said, the dorsal?
The dorsal aorta, well, it's not connected. This
So it would be coming from
yeah,
there?
so we have, this entire thing is the aorta, right?
Mhm.
And this is the aortic arch.
And
then
it would
the one,
descend.
it would descend down, but the aorta is
Okay.
collectively that's going on the back side going down. It's the dorsal aorta. All right. So that's it for now. So what